The other thing I wanted to ask you about was what if the child is too fired up for the conversation? Maybe they have low frustration tolerance, start name calling, things can get violent. What do you do in that situation?
Two options that I can think of. First of all, just by the mere way in which you're describing it, there's an excellent chance that the conversation is taking place in the heat of the moment.
Yes.
Horrendous timing. These unsolved problems, unmet expectations that we're talking with kids about are highly predictable, but only if we make our list ahead of time. Now, Cecilia, I know that you have a copy of the ALSA.
I sure do, right here.
That is gold right there. If it was printed on gold paper, it would make the point even more strongly. That's where we're identifying proactively what a kid's lagging skills are, so we have the right lenses are on, and what a kid's unsolved problems are. Once again, unsolved problems refer to any expectation that a kid is having difficulty reliably meeting. If that kid's 10 years old, I'm willing to bet the house some of those unsolved problems are 6 years old, maybe even 7 years old. Kids who are behaviorally challenging tend to accumulate quite a list of unsolved problems. There's a lot of expectations they're having difficulty meeting, many related to hygiene and chores and homework and any expectation that a caregiver has for what's supposed to be going on at home that a kid is having difficulty reliably meeting finds its way onto the list. And here's the beauty of it. If you do that proactively, then you have just done yourself and your kid a massive favor, because you've now identified every expectation your kid's been having difficulty meeting, many of them for an extremely long time. Then you can prioritize, but best of all, prioritizing is big too, because you don't want to work on all of them at once. But now you can start dealing with them proactively, right? Why we caregivers often wait until a highly predictable unsolved problem has set in motion a challenging episode yet again before we try to deal with it makes no sense. So one of my biggest missions in life is to get people out of the heat of the moment. And believe it or not, the way to get out of the heat of the moment is by filling out that assessment of lagging skills and unsolved problems ahead of time. There they all are. You prioritize them. Some you decide, I'm not working on these right now. You have prioritized them away. You pick the 2 or 3 that you're going to start working on first, and you have a go at it, all proactively. So possibility number 1 for what you're describing is that people are still trying to solve problems in the heat of the moment. Possibility number 2, history. We might be bumping up against history here. Even if you're doing it proactively, the kid may have some doubts about what you're up to here. And this may be a kid who has had the boom lowered so many times immediately following adult raising a problem that they haven't yet recognized that we're on a completely different playing field here. And sometimes they're reacting like they're still on the old playing field. And that can happen even when you're doing it proactively, right? Sometimes that means that we have to explain to the kid that we're trying to do things differently now. He's not in trouble. We're not mad. We're not going to tell him what to do. The boom is not about to be lowered. We're just trying to understand something better. Sometimes if a kid is just really reactive to adults talking to him or her, and by the way, that's got to be history talking. Why else would a kid be reactive to adults trying to talk to him or her? So the kid, we got history that we're bucking up against here. The unsolved problem the first unsolved problem may have to be difficulty talking with mom and or dad about problems. And that's when we often hear, well, I know y'all are about to punish me. Actually, we're not. It makes me feel like I'm in trouble. Well, you're not. We've just got a problem to solve here. I'm just waiting for y'all. I've heard this from kids in prison. You're trying to get the information from me so that you can hold it against me at some point. No, we're trying to get information from you so we can understand this better. So you may be bumping up against history. We'll have to reassure that the kid that's not going on, what he thinks we're up to is not what he thinks is not what we're really up to. Could be that we just have to start talking about solving problems, but I'm betting 90% odds that it's because we're trying to solve that problem in the heat of the moment.
Yeah. And so we talked a little bit about how to deal with it out of the heat of the moment. With history, what I'm making a guess here is that it's something that takes longer to resolve it. Like there's some trust that has to be built up. There's like we have to do it a few times so they can actually see we're not going to hold it against them, or we're not getting ready just to start the punishments. Like, is that what you would suggest for history?
Sometimes, but interestingly enough, there's nothing like being heard to engender trust. So, and the bottom line is, not only do we have to do it a few times, we got to stick with it beyond a few times, right? Because a lot of kids are also accustomed to flavor of the month. They're accustomed to caregivers not sticking with something, and so this kid's got to feel like this is going to keep happening. Because I got to tell you, I'm not talking if I don't feel like it's going to keep happening, right? What for? Some kids, believe it or not, do take a lot of time, which, Jason, was what you were saying. Some kids have been so eager to talk, so eager to have their concerns heard, that it actually doesn't take all that much convincing.
That's nice to hear, because I think that that may be the idea that we have going into it is like, I've got all this to undo. And as a parent, that can be overwhelming, because we hear from parents often like, I just feel like it's too late. I've already messed up and now they don't want to talk. And what I'm hearing you say is that actually can be turned on its head in a moment's time through really truly listening to them. And so I think that's encouraging for some parents.
And I would say that is true of some kids. That's actually what I'm hoping for. I'm actually more surprised if a kid won't talk and holds history against us. That happens a lot. But I would say having a kid feel really good about finally being heard is actually more the majority. Just got to stick with it. If you start listening to this kid and then throw it in his face and go back to old ways of doing things, don't be surprised if he never talks to you again.